Hi! So in the previous lecture we addressed one by one all the components of jealousy. But we left one component, fear. Fear is in a certain sense a special emotion and a special element among those that make up jealousy. There are a couple of reasons why fear is so special among the components of jealousy. The first reason is that fear is virtually always there. For example, anger might or might not be there when we're jealous. Even sadness might or might not be there. But fear is always there. We could say that if there is no fear, then there is no jealousy. The second reason why fear is so special is that, as we will see in this lecture, there is no real solution to this fear. Or actually, to put this more clearly, the only solution to this kind of fear is to accept it and to embrace it. And I'm going to explain you why. First of all, we have to inquire a bit deeper into the fear that hides behind jealousy. What exactly is that fear? What are we afraid of? Is it fear that our partner will leave us? Perhaps it's fear that we will be lonely and sad in the future, or maybe it's fear that we are becoming old and unattractive. If you look at all these different kinds of fear, though, you will find that behind each and every one of them, there lurks one basic fear. That is the fear of change. We are having a good time with our partners, and we are afraid that that might change. This fear is challenging our sense of security. Something in us would like things to be the way they are now, forever, maybe. And the threat that something could change immediately triggers this fear. This is why I call it a fear of change. Okay, so let's recap for a moment. We said that among all the emotions that can make up an episode of jealousy, fear is a bit special because it's always there. And this fear, although it can appear in many different forms, is ultimately a fear of change, a fear of instability, of insecurity. Now here is why I said before in the lecture that this fear cannot actually be solved in the proper sense of the expression. Because although we can do many things to make our life and our relationship life more secure and more stable, still a certain degree of insecurity is inevitable. People get old and die. Relationships change. Our life, and especially our relationship life, is subject to so many factors that are not under our control. I'm sure if you look around you among your friends, maybe in your own personal life, you will see many examples of what I'm talking about. As much as we can try to make things in our love life stable and secure, life can always surprise us in one way or another. So in this sense, I was saying before that there is no real solution to this fear of change. We cannot just push a button and say, okay, things are freezing now, they're never gonna change from what they are now. That's not realistic. So we can't really deal with the fear of change by saying, oh, don't worry, your relationship with that person will never end or will never change. And also, we cannot ask this kind of security from our partners, really. But now comes the good news. There is actually a beautiful way that we can deal with this fear, and that means by embracing it, in a certain sense, accepting it. We said that change is inevitable in relationships and in life, right? Now there is a very beautiful Chinese proverb that says, when a problem has no solution, then it's not a problem. This is exactly our case. There is no solution to the fear of change, because change is going to happen anyway, so it's not really a problem. It's just a fact. And then, what can we do with this fact? Well, there is one beautiful thing that we can do, and that is choose to trust. Not only trust in your partner, that that your partner is going to be always by your side and never leave you. That's not the point. I'm talking here about trusting your future, trusting your life, trusting your destiny, trusting that you will be taken care for. There is one very important point about this decision to trust, and that is that it's a decision. There is no amount of scientific data or statistics that can prove to you or to me that things will go well. It's a decision. Trusting is a decision that, however, as experience shows, makes it much more likely that things around you will go well. Because once you decide to trust, the energy that you spread around you, the influence that you have on others around you is much more positive, and things will go better once you decide to trust. But it's a decision. It's a choice that you have to make. And you can choose to express this trust in the words that are the more convenient, familiar, and natural for you. If you believe in God, then you can decide to trust in God. If you instead believe in the universe or in destiny or karma or in love, whatever it is that you believe in, then you decide to trust in that. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that you develop consciously this attitude of trusting, and your life and your relationships will be completely changed by that. You know, I could talk about this topic of trust for hours and hours, but this is actually a course on jealousy, right? So let's get back to our topic. Choosing to trust will enable you to address this fear of change that can lurk, that actually always lurks behind jealousy. If you can do it, your jealousy might even disappear completely. If you cannot do it and that fear still remains there, no worries. You still have done a very good job. If you have taken care of the anger, the sadness, the loneliness, and then only a bit of fear remains, you're still miles away from your starting point. So both ways, you've done a great job. Once again, our objective here is quite practical. We want to make jealousy into a manageable aspect of our lives. This requires taking care of the individual components of it. If we can, on top of that, also actively practice trust and then deal with the fear of change that lurks behind jealousy, that's fantastic. But this is not necessarily for everyone, depending on the individual and depending on the different moments of our lives. However, remember that trust, the decision to trust, can be trained like everything else. At the beginning, it may come a bit artificial or with a lot of effort, but in due time, it becomes second nature. So I would encourage you to at least give it a try. Okay, that's all I had to say about the fear of change. As you see, it's a very important and crucial component of our jealousy. It's somehow the root of it in a certain sense. And now we have discovered it and learned how to deal with it. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture on the fear of change, and I'll see you very soon with the next lecture.